Hi, I'm Sue Fairchild, and this is my channel. This is all about writing tips, editing tips, especially for the Christian writer. Today we're going to talk about how to set up your Microsoft Word document when sending it to a publisher, an editor, or even an agent. A lot of times I receive manuscripts in Word not set up the way that is conducive. Also, you can come across looking unprofessional if you're not setting it up correctly. And it's really easy to set it up kind of in the standard way that most agents, publishers, and editors would like to have it. That steps you off on the right foot with them so they know that you're serious about getting your work out there into the world. I also see a lot of authors utilize formatting, heavy formatting, when they send in their documents. That kind of indicates that you definitely have something in your mind of how you want it to be. And that is not wrong per se, but it also kind of can come across to the publisher or editor or agent that you're a little unbending. You don't want it to be any other way except this. This is how it has to be. And you want to come across as someone who is willing to work cooperatively. So you're willing to let go of some of that formatting if you have to. However, a lot of editors, agents, publishers will work with you to help you make the interior of your book look just how you would like it to look. So just keep that in mind. So with that said, we're going to go share a screen here, and I'm going to show you some tips. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a Microsoft Word document. I have that right here. This is often how it comes to me. This happens to be my manuscript, so I'm not sharing anyone else's copyrighted material. This is typically how it comes. A lot of the time when you just open up Microsoft Word, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get the Calibri font, usually 11 point. There's not going to be any like formatting. So first thing we're going to do is, if you do have formatting, I'm kind of not going to worry about that today. You can do the same thing if you already have it heavily formatted. You can just select all, and how I'm doing that is just Control A on, I'm on a PC, but I think it's Command A on a Mac. That selects all of the text in your document. Now you can do this in sections. You can do it chapter by chapter if you want. You can do just a small section if you're sending just one chapter or just a small little section to an editor or publisher. I'm just doing select all today because that selects everything that I have. So when you have your ribbon up here, we're looking at this ribbon in Microsoft Word. Like I said, this was in Calibri currently. The standard for publishers and editors is Times New Roman. Now, when they go to publish the book, that might change to a different font when they're using InDesign or another program that they're using to set up your book. It's most likely going to be, if it's fiction, it's most likely going to be a serif font, which means you can see in Calibri here, there's no those little end things on like an R. Here on the N and 1, you can see it has the little extra thing like on the foots. So you want to have a serif font most likely, especially if it's fiction. You can use Calibri or Arial. I would probably suggest Arial if you have a nonfiction book. A lot of them are still going to be a serif font, which is Times New Roman. But because they are seen as more academic, typically those sometimes have the non-serif fonts, sans serif fonts. So here I've changed everything to Times New Roman. Easy peasy, right? Just chose it from up here. I'm not exactly sure why it's not showing here, but it's in Times New Roman right now. And we're going to use 12 point font. 12 is like the minimum of what editors and publishers need. As an editor myself, I prefer at least 12 point font. And then I increase my window. So in down here, when I'm editing, I'll increase this to larger so that I can see it. And actually, I'm going to keep it enlarged that way so you can see a little better too. Typically, when you open up a Microsoft Word document, it comes in at 100%. I have this right now at 150%, so we can see it better. Editors like myself will often do that when they're editing because it's just easier on my eyes to read that. All of these things too, for an editor, publisher, agent, it's easier on their eyes, essentially. These kind of things that they're setting up. This is the standard, the way they like it set up, because also that says to them that you've done some research. If a document comes to me with everything that I am going to show you today, Times New Roman, 12-point font, half-inch indents, I'll even accept a quarter-inch indents, double spaced, I feel like, oh, they've done their homework already. They know what they're doing. This is not like a really newbie writer. This is someone who's done their research. They've done the legwork, so they really are serious about wanting to get their book published. Okay, that's not to say that if you send something to an editor or publisher that isn't set up this way, they're going to reject you. I don't want you to feel that way. That isn't the case. Certainly, if you're sending something to an editor or publisher in some kind of weird font, let me find you a weird font. If you're sending something to them in like Algerian, don't do that. You don't want everything that's going to be all uppercase, this weird kind of font, even if that really goes with your fantasy fiction novel. Maybe your chapter titles are going to be in this font. Maybe your title on the front of the book might be in this font, but it's not going to be what your writing is going to be because it's hard to read. Readability is kind of the number one thing. Okay. So we've set up our font, we've set up our font size. Now, the next issue is indents. So right now, I'm going to go here to this paragraph. This is a paragraph formatting settings. You'll see it's kind of blank right now. I would suggest these would be 0, not auto, 0. Line spacing should always be double. And this special right here, you want first line. This is your first line indent. So your first line you can see here is 0.5. I do have some publishers that prefer 0.25, especially in Kindle. I think Kindle are using 0.25, but we're going to start with 0.5 because that is typically the standard right now. So zeros across the board here, double space and first line indent. So I'm going to hit OK, and you're going to see how this changes. Okay, so you see that we've indented here. Another way you can indent is by using your tabs up here. So it's just easier as like to do a whole document thing to go to that paragraph, pull down the paragraph settings and choose that half line indent because half-inch indent, because when you start a new paragraph anywhere now within this document, it's going to automatically go to a half-inch indent. You've set that up as a universal thing for this document, okay? Now, you'll see here, that means chapter 1. All of my chapter headings has also indented. So, you can do one of two things. You can choose a style. Let me start with this. You can choose by going through your document now and moving this so that it removes all the indents from your chapter titles. Now, a lot of authors like to just center the chapter. Most of my publishers would prefer that it would be left justified. If you have this centered, which I'll center it here. Actually, let me go back. So say this is indented and say you say, oh, I'm just gonna center it, okay? You've chosen up here within the paragraph, these are your alignment tools to center it. You can see this still has the indent. So you'll still want to remove that indent for your chapter titles, your subtitles, anything in the book, okay, that has that. I would suggest, though, that you left justify all of these. But that's my own preference. Publishers kind of go across the board on that. They're okay with the centered chapter titles. They're okay with left justified title chapters. You pick on that one. That one is not as set in stone, okay? So now we have a document that has the half-inch indents. It's double spaced. It's done in Times New Roman, 12-point font. Now, let me go back. Let's say we want to do this. You can also apply styles. You can also apply styles to your chapter titles. Styles is up here. Now this is getting a little more in the weeds. This is not as basic information as the beginning of this video. This is a little more in the weeds. You can use these, what are called styles in Microsoft Word. Now styles, you can go down kind of through them and determine, let me actually close that. So all of these, how they look, that is how your chapter title is going to look. Now let me say also one thing. Your document font color should be standard black. So right here, it should be this automatic black. Any color within your document is going to be stripped out before it gets published anyway. If you want something in color, that's going to have to be some kind of formatted note to send your formatter when they do the interior. So that'll be done in InDesign. InDesign is what a lot of the publishers utilize to set up their interiors. There's probably other bigger publishing companies might have a different program. That kind of strips out everything you're sending anyway. So that prefers Times New Roman, 12-point font, automatic color, double spaced. Your document, your book is not going to print in double space. It will print with either a 1/2 inch indent or a 1/4 page indent, 1/4 inch. I keep saying that, 1/4 inch indent. It's gonna publish with one of those. They'll fix that. But if you already are starting with a 1/2 inch and that's what they're using, that's something they don't need to fix. Okay, it'll be in the automatic black color. Of course, there are some exceptions to that rule. Children's books, there are exceptions to that rule. 90% when you're doing fiction, nonfiction, the interior is going to be black and white. It's going to be black text on white page or cream page. Okay. Back to styles. So if you're using a style, which you can, especially if you're self-publishing and you want to set up a style for this, you can choose a heading. Let's say we'll use this chapter title heading. You can go down through, let me show you another little quick thing. So all I did was hit Control F. I think it's probably Command F on a Mac. That brings up your navigation screen. This is your find screen. So I can look up the word chapter and you'll see all of my chapters come up. Okay. So this is pretty easy, where I can go to chapter 2. I can select it. I can make it title. Okay. I can go to the next one. Chapter 3, I can select that. I can make it title. Now, you notice that this chapter title made it left justified. It's made it a little bit larger font, 28 point, as a matter of fact, and it puts it back in Calibri. Now, you can mess around with styles all you want. It's kind of an easy way to do that. You can right click this and modify this style to be exactly what you want it to be, meaning automatic color. It could be 12-point font. It could be Times New Roman. Okay. And see, now it has made it Times New Roman, 12-point font, same as everything else. Then you'll also have these show up over here as headings. You'll get your headings later here. Oh, I'm sorry. The title doesn't come with a heading, so forget I said that. So there's a couple of ways to do that. I would not do it that way, because when you're sending, unless you're getting ready to self-publish, so I wouldn't do it that way. If you're sending it to a publisher or editor or agent, strip everything out, make it Times New Roman, 12-point font, left justified with a 1/2 inch indent, and then and I would suggest correcting your chapter title indents to 0. So that's kind of the basics. I know I went over a lot here. I go over a lot of these things as well in my once a month newsletter. So I would love for you to sign up for that. So that's kind of the basics of how to format your document in Microsoft Word. If you'd like more information, be sure to sign up for my newsletter or send me an email about it. Also, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram, where I also have some reels with some good tips. And be sure you check out my other videos. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you get all the notifications. Thanks and have a great day.